Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of voice of radio. So today, we've got a whole bunch of new trainer cards to talk about, including some that are very, very obviously linking into Legends Arceus, and I, for one, am rather happy indeed. So why don't we start off with one of those that is very obviously linking into Legends Arceus, with Cyllene. And I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, and for that, I can only apologise. Translations I should mention here are all from the lovely Antoine Boulet, one of our very favourite people, and we are extremely grateful that we get to, well, look at these cards, talk about these cards. This is good. Also, the amount of Legends Arceus I've been playing lately, the idea that I can now sit and have a good old playthrough and have a look at these lovely new cards that are hinting at Legends Arceus, that makes me very happy indeed. So what we've got here is a supporter card that lets you flip 2 coins and choose a number of cards from your discard pile up to the number of heads, and you put the cards you choose on top of your deck. If you manage to flip double heads, you get to choose the order. It's a recovery supporter card. Now, it doesn't actually give you the cards, it puts them on top of your deck, but there are a million things out there that can draw a card or two. We don't need to worry too much about that. It's a recovery supporter card. And it's a kind of supporter card that I'm never going to play. But if you're playing those kind of control decks, it is a kind of one that people are going to absolutely love. Because in control decks, you want to play all of your most annoying things of like Crushing Hammer and those things. And they run out, especially item cards, they run out. So what you do instead is you go and play a supporter card like this so you can get it back. It's very, very flippy, and that's a little bit of a pain, but what you're going to do here is you're going to use things like Palpad. You're going to use those kind of Pokemon that can get stuff back from your discard pile. Then you're going to be using this, and life is going to be pretty good. In control decks, this is great. Outside of control decks, you will occasionally flip what you need, and to be fair, you have a pretty good chance of flipping at least one heads. And that could get you 1 card back from your discard pile to win the game. You know, how many times have we played Versus Seeker to get back a gusting card, something like Boss's Orders, though I don't think that's ever been legal with Versus Seeker, and then gone and won the game. This can be that. But it's a supporter card, and you could still flip double tails, so maybe not get too excited. One that I am very excited about is Jubilife Village, and whoever decided to get this card and give it to Kato to illustrate, I would like to give that person a hearty handshake. Because, man, this looks cool. Kato has been knocking it out of the park with some of these trainer cards lately, and this is one that makes me very, very happy indeed. And, of course, we've all been playing Legends Arceus. It's the only village in the game, so, yeah, that is a cool thing to have a card of. Once during each player's turn, that player may shuffle their hand into their deck and draw 5 cards, but it ends their turn. And I want to make this super clear right off the bat, okay? This is not Tropical Beach. This is significantly worse than Tropical Beach. However, this performs largely the same function as Tropical Beach. This is, I've got nothing in my hand, I've got nothing to do next turn, this is going very wrong. Or this is, I'm not going to attack anyway, I might as well use this because I'm going to end my turn without attacking. Or this is a great turn 1 option, because remember on turn 1 you are not allowed to either attack or play a supporter card, but you absolutely are allowed to do this. It is consistency from a stadium, but it ends your turn. So the vast, vast majority of decks are not going to be willing to use this in the middle of the game, because you're not going to be able to give up your attack for the turn. But like I say, if you're playing those kind of decks that don't attack, and this gives me an excuse to mention Wailord again, I never liked playing with or against it, but that Wailord EX deck that basically just went, you can't KO me, I'm going to heal over and over again and disrupt you a bit. Oh man, that was a fun deck. Again, not to actually play, or play against, but you know, in theory and in hindsight when you're not playing against it, it's kind of a fun deck. That's the kind of thing that would be good in that kind of deck. All turn 1 when you got nothing else going on, etc. This is another kind of card which is largely going to be played by control decks, the kind of decks that don't necessarily actually need to be attacking, because they're largely focusing on disrupting you. And honestly, no, this isn't Tropical Beach. And in Expanded, where Tropical Beach is legal, nobody is going to be playing this over Tropical Beach. But in Standard, where we don't have Tropical Beach, you better believe this is the best option we've got. This is a very nice stadium card indeed, and you should expect it to see a whole bunch of play. Only in some decks, and I'm not saying it's better than old cards, but I absolutely am saying it's better than the alternatives we have around at the moment. So far, 2 cards, 2 pretty gosh darn good cards. Now, we've also got Roxanne coming, and Roxanne is going to look very similar. It's going to look like a card we've seen before, and it is also the kind of thing, I'm sorry, the control decks are going to love. You can play this card only if your opponent has 3 or fewer prize cards left. Both players shuffle their hand into their deck, then you draw 6 cards, and your opponent draws 2. Oh, it's one of those. If anyone's missed it, it's Ace Trainer. Now, it's not exactly Ace Trainer. Ace Trainer is essentially if you were losing the game, if you had more prize cards remaining than your opponent. This is just your opponent has 3 or fewer remaining, i.e. your opponent is quite close to being able to win the game. Because remember, we got 3 prize Pokemon at the moment. This means you're pretty close. And basically, in the early game, this card, trash. You literally can't play it. Although in Sudden Death, it's amazing. If you ever end up in a Sudden Death game where you can use it as a draw card and your opponent goes down to 2 cards in hand, yeah, that's going to be amazing. Because you start with 1 Pokemon each. Outside of Sudden Death, it's trash in the early game. But when you get to the mid to late game, this is an absolutely stunning card. This is the kind of card which is going to win you the game. Because you put your opponent down to a 2-card hand, you then have a 6-card hand, and that is absolutely brilliant. I also do like the way they've changed this from Ace Trainer. Ace Trainer could sometimes be used very early in the game to lock your opponent if they took an early prize. This can't. I should also mention, Ace Trainer let your opponent draw 3 cards. This actually only lets them draw 2, so in that regard, this is better than Ace Trainer. And this is going to be absolutely great in setup decks, or decks that are a bit slower, or control decks, or things of that nature. But the challenge is going to be trying to figure out how many copies to play. Because this is not going to be a 4 of, unless you are very slow in terms of your deck building and you got other ways to draw cards. You can't usually afford to play this as a 4 of because you need to be playing draw cards in the early game. Incidentally, if it's a slow enough deck that you're going to be playing Jubilife's Village, this is going to actually pair really nicely with it. But as a 1 or 2 of, yeah. And don't forget, we've got Luminion nowadays, which is going to search this one out. Or if it's already in the discard, because what you can do is discard it early and then get it back with Eldegoss. That would absolutely work. So essentially Eldegoss if you discard it early, or Luminion if you don't. So we've got ways to search it out, and I actually really like this card. Now, when I say I like it, I mean I think it's objectively good. I don't actually mean that I like it. I hate this card. This is the kind of card that I'm going to lose to, partly because my opponent is going to take advantage of my fast start and I'm going to brick. And also, inevitably, I'm going to put it in a deck like an idiot, play it when I'm not allowed to play it like an idiot, and get a game loss like an idiot. Which only happened once when I played Ace Trainer, but I will admit that I once got a game loss for playing Ace Trainer when I was even on prizes. And more of you probably did than are willing to admit it. My point is, I don't like this card myself, but I like it as a good card. It's a great card for slower decks. It is a great comeback card. People have been begging for comeback cards, and this will work quite nicely. What I will say is, you could have 1 prize remaining and your opponent could have 3 prize cards remaining, and you'd still be able to play this. That is going to hurt for the person who's behind on prizes, but still has 3 remaining. Either way, this is a 3rd card in a row, which I do expect to see play. This is really good. Now, moving on to some item cards, we've got Cancelling Cologne. It is an item card, like I said, and until the end of this turn, your opponent's active Pokemon has no abilities, including Pokemon that become active this turn. I.e., the way Antoine seems to have worded this here, and bearing in mind Antoine is very, very good at this, It seems like if you were to play this, but then change your opponent's active with another card, you would still get to use this. And basically, this is going to absolutely wreck some matchups. Absolutely wreck. So, for instance, we've got stuff like that new Miltank, who's got an ability that makes it immune to Pokemon V, doesn't take damage from Pokemon V. Yeah, now it does. You play this, attack it with a Pokemon V. Or you could be up against something like Duraludon, but unfortunately, you've got special energy attached. So play this, and now you can attack it. And you might be thinking, well, hang on a second, Wassy, Path to the Peak. Why don't you just play Path to the Peak? And that will allow you to attack things like Duraludon. Incidentally, another great stadium card drawn by Kato. And the answer is, well, it's not quite that simple. Because I might want my own abilities. And if I play Path to the Peak to turn off a Duraludon, I might be turning off my own Pokemon, and that's a problem. I might want to play other stadiums rather than Path to the Peak. Put simply, there are a million reasons why I don't want to play Path to the Peak. This is a way that I can get the same effect without having to play Path to the Peak. Except worth pointing out, it is a better effect because this turns off all of your active Pokemon, your opponent's active Pokemon's abilities, not just Pokemon V's. So this could turn off Galarian Weezing, for instance, and turn on your own abilities, which seems like it could be quite useful. Or could turn off something like the aforementioned Miltank. Worth pointing out, it doesn't turn off abilities on your opponent's bench, which are generally going to be, like Manaphy's bench barrier. It would be awesome if you could turn off Manaphy's bench barrier and then hit the bench, but that doesn't work here. Most abilities on the bench aren't used on your turn anyway, but certainly using this to turn off someone like Manaphy would be good, but this only turns off abilities of your opponent's active Pokemon. Make no mistake about it, this is still a phenomenal card, which is going to see a huge amount of play, and imagine this in a deck like Arceus V-Star. That's got that ability, lets you search for any two cards, so you can basically guarantee you've got it when you need it. For decks like that, it's amazing. Or we could talk about something like Drizzile or Inteleon that allow you to search out those item cards. This is going to help you very, very nicely just to be able to find it so you've got it at the right time. It's an item card, not a supporter, so you can dig for it using supporter cards. This is another one which is going to make a huge impact. And that makes me sad to get to Wait and See Turbo, because, well, look, I think we've looked at 4 genuinely good cards that are going to see play, and I don't know if Wait and See Turbo will. It's a great card, but you can only use this card if you go second, and only on your first turn. I.e., if you go first, this card is unplayable. And even if you go second, you've got 1 turn to use it. If you draw into it after that, it's garbage. But you search your deck for a basic energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon. It is an absolutely flat-out, over-the-top, stunning card with a huge, gigantic caveat. The caveat that you've got to play it on your first turn going second. Because an item card, we have seen this before, something like Colress Machine. Colress Machine could only accelerate plasma energy, but it still was an item card that accelerated from the deck, and it was amazing. If you could get away with playing Colress Machine, you generally play 3 or 4 of them because it's that gosh darn good. The problem is we run into that same situation here, where you kind of want to play 4 of these to maximize your chances of getting it on turn 1 going second, but then by the same token, you don't want to play that many, because if you draw it after your first turn, or if you go first, it's a useless card. And of course, it does need to be pointed out that it ends your turn. So it's not like you can have some kind of ridiculous turn where you play 3 or 4 of these in one go. Like, I would love this with Genesect. The idea that Genesect's draw engine is so gosh darn good, you could potentially draw 6 cards, and you could have 4 Genesect in one turn, that you could potentially play this with Genesect, go absolutely nuts, get an extra 3 or 4 energy turn 1 if you drew well enough, but as soon as you play one, it ends your turn. So, not only can it only be used on your first turn, and not only can it only be used if you're going second, but it also ends your turn, so you're limited to playing one of them in the game. So I want to play 4 to draw into it, but even if I draw multiple on my first turn and I go second, I still can only play one of them. Oh, that's just too annoying for me, ladies and gentlemen. So much potential. That's what I think. I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.